Welcome to today's 4 Pillars of Entrepreneurship Virtual Summit. And today, I have Jasmine Rutschmann, Soul on Fire, with me. My name is Hardock, and I'm the founder of the United Networks for Growth. It's a holistic approach to entrepreneurship in the areas of health, wealth, personal growth, and business development. And my guest, Jasmine Rutschmann, is an award-winning international metal artist working primarily with a handheld plasma cutter. She had been featured on Marylin Denis Show in Toronto and gave a business pitch to Kevin O'Leary, a recent graduate of Durham College Small Business and Entrepreneurship program. Her primary focus was developing her metal art business plan. Welcome, Jasmine.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
You're welcome. I met you when you were still maybe a high school student. That's when you first started your metal arts business.
Yes. I was in high school. I was in grade 12. In my grade 12 business class, I was showing my business teacher some pictures of my artwork, and he suggested I connect with the BYC, which is Building Youth Capacity. They helped me to develop a business plan, and that's how I really first got started on my entrepreneurial journey.
Wow, that's exciting. Like someone that has a passion in metal art and turning it into business. I think that's something real. Like, how do you do it, like when in such a short time when you were in high school to turning from just a business plan into a business? When do you know that it is a viable business?
When did I know that it was a viable business? This is a great question. Because at first I was just doing it for fun, and then I started getting people asking me to make them different art pieces and order work. And I think it's when I started to make some money from it that was more than I would make at a part-time job or a full-time job that I realized, okay, there's something here for sure. And it was quite surprising how much I was able to do. And I'm just really grateful because I love doing it. I think that's what was the most surprising. It was something I completely adored doing anyways. And to be able to get people to give me money for it was like, oh, this is possible. This is like an option for a career path. I had no idea until I took that grade 12 business course and started to develop that plan and sell my pieces.
Yes, I've seen your art pieces and they're very unique. That's why there are lots of like metal artists, but I just find your talent, it's very unique and different. Can you show us some of the pieces?
Yeah, of course. I will share. These are some of my art pieces here. So these are 2 oil tanks that I've worked on. I love reclaimed materials as much as possible. So I have some saws as well, and a wheelbarrow that I freehand plasma cut.
Wow.
So I draw all of my own designs freehand, and then I cut them up by hand as well.
Wow, look at that. How long would you, stop it. Just how long would it take you to do a piece like, say, the spade?
So it all varies from piece to piece because each piece is unique. But spade takes about a process of a week to create. It doesn't mean I'm working on it full time for the week, but overall I have to draw it, then I have to cut it.
Yeah. And how many hours would you say?
I'm a business grad, but I really don't calculate the hours because it's just something I'm passionate about and I love doing.
Time just fly when you love what you do, right?
Exactly.
Right? And I know your saw, it's like a lot of people love to buy your saws, right? Like because they're all different.
Definitely. My saws are really popular. I have a lot of custom orders for saws as well. People bringing them in and might have been their grandfather's old saw or their grandmother's saw. And they have me carve a unique design to them into it, which is really awesome. And the stories I get when their saw that was in their shed before is hanging on their wall now. It's just a spectacular feeling and great feedback from them to be able to hear the impact I'm able to make with my art.
Yes. Can you go down a bit where the, where's that wheelbarrow?
The wheelbarrow.
Yes, because that's the first time I recognized it. It was in art show, was it?
Yes, so this one won the Uxbridge Juryd Art Show. I was 18 when I entered. It was my first art show I'd ever applied to. And
Wow.
I got Best in Show for Juror's Choice, which is the best award you can get. I got some prize money, some really great exposure. It was, I think, the first time that I really realized I had a real talent.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me thinking that or my family, you know, it was actual jurors who had came in.
I think anyone see that. Do you ever make a mistake, like, but you will be able to change it into other pattern? Am I correct? Because that's lots of work into the wheelbarrow or the oil tank, right? What happened if you, well, later you're going to show us the process, because I just thought it's unimaginable not having, like, to make any mistake because they are so close to each other, right? Like the.
Yeah, so for example, on this oil tank, if I make a mistake, I just have to hope that it's in a part that isn't a big deal if I make a mistake. So in flowers or something that I could, you know, cut into something else. But
Yes.
for faces that I do, there's no making a mistake, because if I do, then the whole piece can be ruined. And like you're wondering time, these oil tanks took over 120 hours each to make. So if I'm on that one cut, I have to be really careful and take my time while doing it, because there's no going back. There's no really welding it back in place. I could try, but it won't look the same.
What is the other side? The back side is just enclosed. So, like, how do you reach to for the oil tank, for example?
So for this one, it's actually cut in half. So I took the oil tank and I cut it in half. So this is 1/2 of an oil tank.
Yes.
For this one, it's a full oil tank. You can see the door is right here. We actually put in. So
Right.
it's a space that I crawled in this tank, and then I painted the back. So the colors you see is the back of the oil tank. So I put a sun in here. And as you walk from one side of the oil tank to the other, the sun actually sets. And this tank actually won Uxbridge Juryd Art Show as well. I went back a year after and I won the Best in Show for Juror's Choice with that piece.
You were only 19 then.
Yes, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know how amazing you are? Wow. So wow, and instruments. Yes, I've seen, oh my God.
Yeah, so my instruments are also really popular and interesting. I have a lot of musicians come up to me at shows and say, "What did you do to this instrument?" But they're all damaged beyond repair, so I'm able to salvage them and give them a second wind. And then they're part of my second wind series.
Yes. Wow. That's like that saxophone. Yeah, the one that you're pointing at. How many hours of work?
So there's probably over 40 hours of work into it.
It's lots of fine details in your artwork, right?
Yes, the more detailed it is, the harder it is to create. So the more I work on really finding the balance of the piece, it's also keeping things together so they don't just fall apart. Because if I cut here, then all of a sudden this whole piece would become structurally it would become flimsy and could fall apart. So I have to be very cautious whenever I'm working on something to make sure it will stay together as well.
Is it just by the feel, or you actually measure and notice structurally not safe? Like, like they're architect that they study like so much, like to keep a building, stable, sturdy, right? Like, how did you learn about all these? Just by the feel?
It's a great question. I would say just over time, I made mistakes and I learned from those mistakes. I learned, okay, if I cut here and I have too big of a space here, this is going to become flimsy and become unstructurally sound. So I have to make sure that I'm leaving parts where it's connected. And that's one of the things when I do custom work and people want letters, I really have to leave a space for the A to stay connected. So you'll see the middle part of it. It's things people might not really think about, but it's very important for me to process and take my time while designing a piece to make sure that it does. But just, experience over time, I would say.
Wow. Do you constantly, when you work on a piece, like how long would you stay to work on a piece at a time? Like say, do you work over 2 hours, or, you would stop just where you feel it?
So some people ask, like, do I work on an oil tank consistently? Do I just keep going on one piece? I switch up. I do a lot of different pieces at the same time personally. That's how I like to work on art. I know some people will start a piece and they have to finish it. I will pick up a few different projects because the amount of time I put into specific pieces, it would be too much to work on it in that way. And I also have a lot of custom work I'm doing. So I'm fulfilling orders and then switching back to doing what I would like to do, or whatever my new idea is at the time.
Right. Yeah, and that one is a heart.
Yes. So this is my anatomy series. It's part of my newest series I've been working on. It's actually inspired because I had a close family member be diagnosed with lung cancer. And I wanted to give he survived, so thankful for that. But I wanted to give his doctor a thank you gift. So I made this set of steel lungs, and it's called Lungs of Steel. And he really loved it. He actually commissioned me to do another set for a different doctor who was retiring.
Right.
And then I started thinking about what else could I make. So I've done this piece is called Brainwaves. I have a heart I've done, and I'm working on more pieces in this set as well. Yeah, my ideal down the road, once I get a few more pieces established in the series, would be to give a percentage of the proceeds to cancer research and become sort of a fundraiser for that as well.
Yes. Yes. That's beautiful. So, sculpture. So you do commission work, right?
Yes.
Yes. Now, give me an example of what is like a commission work that you have done.
So a commission piece that I would have done would be, I've done instruments, of course, but I do a lot of saws, as I was saying.
Yes.
I've also done a lot of, I've done bigger pieces. So I actually had a company who has a CNC machine, which is the plasma cutter that you just program and it cuts. I do everything with a freehand plasma cutter, so there is no computer or programming done behind what I do. It's all freehand design and freehand cut. So they had a CNC plasma cutter and a freehand plasma cutter, but they didn't have anyone who could draw or cut like I could. So they brought it to me to get work done on. And I made them a welder for their front foyer of their business. So that's an example. I do signs. If anyone is familiar with Willow Tree Farms, I did their big sign. That's a local example. And a lot of saws, gifts, anything that people have in mind, I can work with them to come up with a design and then fabricate something for them. Trees of life, a lot of different things and projects I've worked on. And
at the same time, you're recycling all those metal parts that people might have thrown out.
Oh, definitely. So I'll go back to my sculpture page here. So the oil tanks, when it first started, my dad told me, you're not using new material, go to the scrap bin and pick from there. So I started going out to the scrap bin, and we had an old shovel head there. We had an old paint can there. And I took them and I started just designing things and practicing on them. But I started to realize all of these old objects had really unique stories to tell.
Yes.
And they had a new purpose. It was saving so much from the landfill and giving it a second life. And it started to translate into why I do my art, because I think for people as well, we hold on to so much in our lives that if we cut away what's no longer serving us, like I do in my work, we're able to all of a sudden transform and become a more beautiful version of our own selves. So it's a metaphor as well. I want people to look at something and think, wow, that's beautiful. Oh, that's an old shovel. Like they figure it out in their mind. That's really interesting to me. And it's the same for life. If there's something you're holding on to now and you can let go, you can just live a much more sustainable, fulfilled life.
Wow. And tell me how you started this, that that's your passion about these metal. Like you were brought up in a family with your dad's be like having his own garage? Or, yeah, tell us the story.
So actually, my first memory as a child is being in my dad's welding shop and him running up to me and saying, "Don't look at the blue light, don't look at the blue light." And that's when I started to wonder, what was that blue light about? And I'll show you, this is actually what the process looks like. You'd like to see while I
Yes.
talk about this story,
Yes.
because
Isn't it when adults tell the kid not to do something, they just get them more curious?
it's so true. It's very true. So that's actually me plasma cutting. So when he picked me up and said, "Don't look at the blue light," I start wondering, well, what's the blue light about? I want to figure it out. I want to find out about it. But I had that opportunity in high school to go through and learn about plasma cutting and about how that worked. So to me, that was really interesting.
Right.
And I always thought there was a reason that my dad's a welder, and there was a reason I was born where it was, the shop beside my house. Like, there was no way this wasn't meant to be, and like meant to be what I do with my life.
How old were you when the first time your dad allowed you to hold that torch?
So I was 15 when I first plasma cut for the first time. Now, I was very into sports at the time, so I didn't pursue it as much. I did my first sculpture at that time, and
Yes, that's the oil tank, right?
yeah, that's my new oil tank in process there behind
Ah.
me. You can see me working on. But I was playing a lot of sports at the time, and I ended up breaking my collarbone playing rugby, and I couldn't play sports anymore.
Ooh.
So it was at that time when I was recovering, I was always doing something, that I went out to my dad's shop again and said, "Hey," I showed him a picture of a butterfly and asked him, "Hey, do you think like this is something we could make?" And he said, "Yeah, of course." So he showed me how to use the plasma cutter again, and I relearned how to use some of the tools he had showed me before. And I started doing it more. It was scary at first, but then it became really fun and addictive. And something I realized, I'm creating these designs I don't even, like, they're just channeling through me when I'm drawing or designing a piece. It just happens. So
Wow. Yeah, look at that. So you hand drawn all that pattern on the oil tank.
yeah, everything is freehand drawn and then freehand cut.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's inside the tank. Woo!
Yeah, and I'll go back to the widescreen, but I just got back from New York. So this was inspired from my travels there.
Oh.
And this one is called, if you do watch this video after, I can link it to you. It's called Married to the Dream. So it's a woman looking out at the Brooklyn Bridge, and she has a decision to make about her future.
Wow.
And yeah, she can either, there's a bench here, she can take a seat, she can sit back and watch her dreams pass her by, or she can walk the path and get across the bridge and follow her dreams there. And I walked the Brooklyn Bridge when I was there. It was incredible. And I met with some curators who really enjoyed my work. And they said I had a natural gift and talent, and we're in process of setting up some solo shows this year.
Wow. Yeah. So where is this oil tank finished yet? Or?
It's not finished yet. So like I said, the oil takes like 120 hours into those. So I'm still working on this one. I know I've been posting about it on my Instagram, and people are excited to see the finished process, but you just need to be patient because it is in process. But it takes a long time to create pieces like this.
Yeah, but even the story, I mean, it's inspiring.
Oh, thank you. I definitely am inspired by my own life and things going on. And that's part of it. I'm starting to share more of why I create the pieces I do. So that's actually my dad's welding shop. You can see there.
Oh, yeah.
All my scrap pile here, which is amazing.
Yes. And when you say like the oil tank, like the picture was inspired when you were after your trip to New York, right? Yes. And I knew you had a show in New York.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So that was an incredible experience. It was set up by chance. So I love serendipity. I'm going to tell two stories here about
Yes.
just how things have progressed for me. So I was on the Lake School Studio Tour, and a man happened to walk through who happened to have a gallery in New York. His son lives in Ontario, and he just happened to see the signs that day and chose to stop at my studio and really liked my work and said, if I can figure it out, get my work on like across the border in 3 weeks, I could have a show in New York. So I had to go through the entire process of, okay, what does it take? How do I get my art across the border? What am I considered? So I had to fill out an entire customs list of curator and like how much each piece was valued at. And I became a transporter, basically like taking my work across. And you go through a different lane when I went through customs, and they had to search our van and everything.
Wow.
So it was an incredible experience and opportunity, and I learned and I grew so much through it. But it was just by chance that this man happened to be coming through my art show and have that connection to an art gallery in New York. So that was incredible. When I went to New York in January, I met with a curator, but that also happened by chance. So I had a list of art galleries that I wanted to go to. Of course, I was there to meet with curators and just pound the pavement and see if anyone will take a look at my work. I had a booklet with me of all of my designs and my artwork with me. That day I planned to go to the MoMA, so I wasn't even planning to like do my list of art galleries that I had. I was gonna go check out the touristy scene. I was staying in Brooklyn. I ended up getting on the wrong subway. And I'm trying to figure out the subway system. I'm by myself in New York. I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, okay, I can try and get off and fight this and get to the MoMA today, or I can look at what's on the way to the subway. You know, I look and the Brooklyn Bridge is the last stop. So like, I decided, I guess I'm seeing the Brooklyn Bridge today. So I go across the Brooklyn Bridge. It was beautiful, amazing. You can see the Statue of Liberty from there. And then I look up, okay, what art galleries around me right now that weren't on my list, or, you know, it didn't have to be. I'm just looking at what's the closest art gallery to me right now. So I walk, and it was one art space. And I go in there, and the curator actually comes out, and he's like, oh, we're actually closed today. Sorry, like you'll have to come back another day. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. And he's like, oh, there's something about me that I guess made him ask me, where are you from? Like, what's going on? You know, I'm like, I'm from Canada. I came here. I'm an artist. He's like, oh, do you have any pictures of your work? So I'm like, oh, I do. Grab my booklet from my bag and I hand it to him. He's looking at it and he's like, wow, this is actually really good work. I'm like impressed. I'm surprised. He's like, you should meet the gallery owner. Come back here and meet the gallery owner. So I go to the back. I meet the owner. His name's Dan. We're talking. He's going through my artwork. He's like taking pictures of it with his phone and marking down pieces he likes. He's like, we should have you in here for a group show for sure. For sure this year it's gonna happen. Like, your artwork's awesome. We talk more. He's like, if you're available 6 p.m. tonight, there's another art gallery opening. You should go and you should network. So I'm like, okay, I'll be there, right? And then I'll have like this in. So I show up at 6 o'clock. He introduces me to another curator who also looks at my pieces, really likes them, is looking through my book. At first didn't really want to talk to me, but then saw my work and decided they liked it. So it was incredible. Met fellow artists who gave me information about residencies. That's what I'm looking into for this year, is I'd love to do either a month, 2 months, 6 month, year-long residency in New York, and get established down there. That's what I'm really looking to do. Those are my next steps. Because in New York City, like if you can make it there as an artist, like you can make it anywhere in the world. So that's what my next steps are. But it was just serendipity that day that I got on the wrong subway and ended up meeting this curator.
You were meant to be. You were meant to meet them.
It's crazy to talk about and to just think about those moments. But I also think about in our lives, there's so many things that we could, force to happen, I think. And sometimes I think life has a different idea or a plan for us. And if we just kind of go with the flow, sometimes it can really work out and benefit us. We may never know, I had such an amazing experience day, met connections, all of that. Had I tried to go to the MoMA or tried to do something differently, I wouldn't be where I am. So I think that's really important for people to remember. Even if you aren't exactly where you think you should be, you are exactly where you should be. It's an interesting concept. And it's not to say don't have goals, don't have ambitions. I'm saying have goals, have ambitions and desires, but be flexible in how they happen, because you may never know what the universe, serendipity, whatever it is, may have in store for you. So if you're able to stay open to that and committed to your end goal, I think everyone has a chance to reach their true potential and where they want to be in life and where they want to go.
Yes. And I know that you continuous learning and you go to lots of these inspirational speakers. And tell us about your journey. Yeah.
So yes, I am personal development. I'm very much into that. I think my life has completely changed since I started going to events, reading books. I think the biggest change for me is the word responsibility, because before I did personal development, in the past, I had the view of everything's happening to me. Nothing is in my control. Like the world is so against me. Oh, poor me. I always played small. I always thought it was like things were just supposed to happen for me, a bit of entitlement in there. And when I started to go into personal development and learning that it's nothing to do with anyone else and it's everything to do with what I decide to do and in my control. And if I want to be ambitious, I'm going to be ambitious. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, but it's not on anyone else but me to do it. It's not on anyone else to give it to me, because nothing is given, I would say, in the ways that we expect it to be or want it to be. So I think it's important for us to persevere on our goals and take accountability. If something didn't work out, don't blame someone else. Blame yourself, but in a good way. Effectively blame. Don't blame to analysis paralysis where you can't do anything. It's like we're all going to mess up and make mistakes. We actually learn more when that happens. So understand, okay, that wasn't the right way to do something. That's great. I learned more than what I have just got it on the first time. And I think when we do reach those goals, when we persevere, when things go wrong,
yes,
it feels so much better at the end. It's a goal that's been earned and not just given, because things feel so much better when we actually earn them instead of just have them handed to us.
Wow. Wow. And what inspired you to choose the tagline "Soul on Fire"?
So I'm very passionate. I've thought for a long time about what I wanted my tagline to be. And at first it was like sparks, something along the line of that, because I use sparks. And then one day it just happened. I was like, soul on fire. I decided. And that night someone was talking to me. They're like, your soul is on fire right now. You're talking to me the way you're talking. I'm like, it's so weird that you said that, because I just decided.
You just decided.
But the reason is when I'm creating my work, it definitely is using parts of my soul to channel those designs and come through with experiences or journeys or things I've learned and value I want to provide to other people. And I'm using fire to create that. But not only that, it's like this is something that sets my soul on fire. And my biggest hope for other people would be they find something that sets their soul on fire. And they pursue that and they figure out how to monetize that so that they're able to make money doing what they love and finding happiness through what they love. There's so many people I talk to that aren't happy in their day-to-day lives doing what, they may have a really high-paying job, but they're not happy and they don't know why. They're not fulfilled. They haven't found something that sets their soul on fire. And when I had a role with BYC where I would go into the high schools and help students do that, and I would actually work with the high school students to find what their passion is. And okay, if it's baseball, how can you share your love of baseball with other people and create value? You know, how can you do that? Can you run camps? Can you do online YouTube videos, tutorials on how to pitch? Like, what can you do? Anything that they would tell me they love to do as a hobby, I would instantly be like, okay, how can you make money from it and, you know, still be happy?
Yes, yes. You're so inspiring, like not just to the youth, right? Like, like the first time I invited you to speak with my networking group, I already noticed this girl is different. You're only like right now, you're just 23, am I correct?
Yeah, I just turned 23.
You just turned 23. You know, how many of these artists, they gave up, like even like after years, tens of years, like, you know, they just thought, oh, it's not a place to do, like, you know, they just gave up and go to a regular job, and they're not happy until they retired maybe and become a painter. I have seen so many of them.
Yes.
Wait until they're retired. But I just, you have so much courage and so much inspiration to follow your desire, right? What you're so like really striving for, right? To live the life that you wanted.
Yes, yes, and I think it's important that we remember, like, I think we need to give ourselves the chance to find what we love.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting now because I know there's some mindset around like, oh, if it's not making money, like then don't, like, I don't know, even with the side hustle, like it's very promoted now to do that, but like allowing yourself to have a passion and do something, like find anything, like try new things, and even if you suck at first, keep going, try it something else, like that, where I feel like our society, and this is like, take responsibility because this is how we interpret it, and this isn't society making us do something, but in the way society can be interpreted, it's like finding like the instantaneous of everything, like everything is so fast. Social media posting, like we're instant gratification, like we want to see things happen so fast, but what you talked about, people give up too soon. And if they would have just kept pushing, you know, you never know what's on the other side of that boulder. And I've heard so many speakers and so many motivational people say like they had their biggest breakthrough when they wanted to give up the most, when they were at their lowest point, and they could have just given up and could have just gone and got that traditional job or done whatever, but they pushed through, and that's when they had their biggest breakthrough. So I think it's hard in those moments to not want to give up or to not think about, oh, how much easier it would be getting a 9-to-5 job. But I have respect for people who have 9-to-5 jobs, because that is, I don't see that as easy at all. Unless you're loving what you're doing, and it could be in a 9-to-5 job. Maybe it's not entrepreneurship. I mean, I love entrepreneurship, so I was like, oh, run your own business doing it, but that's not for everyone, and that's okay. It's just finding, if it's a job, if it's entrepreneurship, if it's a hobby, what brings you joy, and how can you do more of that on a consistent basis, and hopefully how can that be part of your career or part of what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see you like giving back to like help other youth to find their way, right? Because they watch you as an example. It's not easy. Like I just know you like go out a lot too. But I don't know why, like in your arts, like you know, it's so unique. Like when I see it, you just stood out then like above all else, right? But you do, because you put all your it's all your energy is focusing on that piece. Like it's really tells a lot about you for each piece that you put your effort into.
Yeah, definitely. When I create a piece, it's trying to create something remarkable that would take people out of their day-to-day lives. You know, we sometimes I find we get caught up in a pattern, a routine. We're going to the 9-to-5, or we're doing something. You know, we're taking the same route to work. We're doing whatever. I want my pieces to be an interruption in people's day, so they stop and stare and they take a moment. They're like, that's something I haven't seen before, and they have to process and think about it. You know what I mean? Taking them out of their heads and into the present moment. If my piece does that for people, that's like, that is my ultimate goal. When someone looks at a piece, when they're like, oh, that's an old saw, that reminds me of this, I'm making that connection. Oh, this is like, you know, it brings up nostalgia, it brings out an emotion in them, it brings them into the moment. That's what I really love for people to experience, and reminding people to be in the moment, because we get so caught up in deadlines and things that we need to get done, and you know, it's okay, on to the next task, on to the next thing, that we forget to just appreciate the present.
Yeah, but well, we are short in time, but I really love to talk to you. Do you know what, I just find you amazing, and keep up the good work. And I know your inspiration is to become an international metal artist, which you already is, because you have showcased yourself from Canada to New York, right?
Yes.
And I think you were in Florida, also showcase your work, right? Yes. So I think like more people around the world, around the globe, will see your art, especially now on the internet, and connect with you, all right? Whether it is for commission work or just for some consultation with you. And actually you're offering a discovery call, right, to the audience today.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is my art isn't my only passion. I'm very passionate about helping people find what sets their soul on fire. And today I'm going to be offering a free 30-minute consultation with me. If you would like to discuss, if you're in a place that you're like, I think I'm interested in this, but I'm not really sure, or you just want to have a conversation with me, maybe I can bring something out in you that you hadn't thought of before. I would love to be able to do that, given the opportunity, and love making new connections. So that will be my offer today, is a 30-minute consult. Either you can talk to me about my art, ask me questions, bounce some ideas off, or we'll have an in-depth conversation about what sets your soul on fire.
All right. Yeah, we will post the link. And before we go, I want you to say your, tell us your website address, because your art is beautiful, and I want everyone to should go and take a look at your artwork.
Yes, please. It's jasminesmetalart.com, jasminesmetalart.com. So, yeah. And my Instagram is jasminesmetalart as well. You can find all my Facebook social under the same.
Wow. So thank you a lot, Jasmine, and love talking to you. Thank you.
Okay, awesome.